Yeah, I wanted to say that everything is about knowing. The goal, you know what the goal of life is to know? Sure. But not know, not like we understand knowing. That's what I want to talk about today. Even the goal of eating is not that. It's the food that's the goal, not the eating. Okay, where they're growing. Anyways, we'll get to that. But the point is, so there's different ways to get to knowledge. A whole long history of humanity, that they try to figure out different ways of how we're going to know. There are a lot of different ways.
Knowing is a
Shem HaKoil. Even when I'm looking at you, now I found out a new thing, that you exist, that there's a person in front of me, right? That's a kind of knowing. Perception, maybe it's different than different kinds of knowing, but there's such, it's no? Yeah.
Is this one-on-one or
it should be collated, sort of, so. What do you say? Yeah, I'm going to have to jump a little around, so because I can't start always in the same place, but I hope that somewhere we'll meet each other.
You'll eventually know something.
Yeah, someone eventually will know something. Okay, the tachlit goal is of knowledge. Like a slogan? I don't have slogans.
No, that's just introductory, just like to know. You can't know all your premises when you start, but to know around. Like
my premises? I don't have premises. The whole idea is
this year starts with premise, of course it does. I'm saying
the premise starts that we want to know. The premise that we want to know. I'm starting from his premises.
Everybody wants to know, but where does it say the goal is to know?
It says in the Rambam. It says somewhere. You want to know the Mekoros?
Yeah.
Mekoros is see, Mekoros is one way of knowing. When you ask what's the Mekar, it says, by the way, I wanted to say.
I want to know. Who said that's the goal?
No, that's not hashala. You want, well, at least you want. At least trying to get to what you want is auch ta'inyan. Something. It's the goal. Okay, and we have to understand what is a goal. All these questions. All these things I already assume.
We don't have premises.
We don't have premises. We have directions. Like we have guideposts that let us go places. Not premises. And for the shear, he asked me what the premise of the shear. Premise of the shear. But wait, I'm starting somewhere. Maybe that makes sense for this. Everyone wants to know things. Now, there's a lot of different ways of knowing things. Very, very clear. Everyone wants to know. Is knowing the goal the only thing? Maybe also action. Okay, knowing and action. Right knowledge, right action. But now we're Talmud. Good Talmud Shemedel Deimas. Knowing is it. So that's why knowing is better. Because knowing is better than even Torah and mitzvahs. The Chazal talk about this. This is the Gemara. Torah is better than mitzvahs because Torah includes mitzvahs and mitzvah doesn't include Torah. So it's koilel. So it means that, or another way of saying it, which is not Mamish Chazal, but it says in the Rambam maybe that Torah is, or Chachma is direct, is for itself. So it's a kasha, because when you learn Torah, it's halachas of mitzvahs, maybe it's not, but Torah that's not only halachas of mitzvahs, it's knowledge of the truth. It's not for anything else, it's for itself. And mitzvahs or actions are for something. Actions always have a goal. Through this I'll know, through this I'll do something will get done, and so on. So that's why knowledge is a better goal than everything else, because it's lishma. That's the idea of Torah lishma.
But it's
Emes, potentially emes, like it says in some place.
But the Rambam says potentially emes. He says to serve. The goal is to know. The goal is to. It
stops speaking. The question stops making sense. Okay, I said this. Oh, you listen. You understand Yiddish?
Yeah.
I don't have, like, 2 weeks ago in my first year on Amma, the first 10 minutes were about this, and they're always about this. And this is the only thing that everyone has to agree on.
Which one?
And there's a new series in Bar Park that's supposedly learning the Akdama of the Rambam. And the first shtickle was about Talmud, Gudel Talmud, about the why Torah Lishma. What is Kashala? Yeah, but okay. The Kitzer. Also, you have to know another one of our basic Akdamas, that knowing is not about you. It's about the thing known. I want to get to that today a little, maybe if we could. That's why it's not like, now that we tend to think of knowing of something that happens in you, like there's a shtickle here that knows. It's not about that. Knowing is a connection between the thing that's known and the knower. That's all knowing. And Maila, when you say Dvaikas, that's what Dvaikas. Dvaikas, literally the word Dvaikas means that, is the, like the Rambam says, Yoda, Yodati, Yasakvei, whatever, he has the whole Arichas, he has the whole Arichas about Yeshiv Seser and somewhere. That being, what does it mean being close to God? It means knowing Him, because God, that's the only way. Yeah, I don't remember if he used Nekpaset, but yeah. But all knowledge is like this. Not it's a medrash. You think it's a medrash. Yoda Chavas or no. Knowledge, just like seeing, is that there's some connection between the wall that I'm seeing and me. How exactly the connection works, you have to learn the science or the philosophy of it. But that's what it's seeing. And knowing is even, that's you don't know all these drushes of mine. Everyone knows them here. You don't know it? say it again. And that's what it says in Tanya, or again, this comes from much earlier, that knowledge is the strongest connection, because in some way, you have to figure out in which way, but in some way, when you know something, there's no mechitza, there's not like when I see something, there's my eye, and somehow there's a physical, the light that travels, or whatever it is that comes from my eye to thee, but knowledge is just that the object known and the knowledge becomes the same thing, like whatever, and that's Dveikus. That's why it's Dveikus, the same thing. But anyways, what I wanted to say something else.
I don't think Dveikus is knowledge. I think Dveikus is not knowledge. It's the next step.
Okay, it's a kind of knowledge. No, all of these things go into the Shema knowledge, like God, Chabad. Exactly which kind of, there's a lot of kinds of knowledge, and a lot of things that people call knowledge are different things, but I call a kind of knowledge. Also, whatever, we'll see. The Ketzer Amasa is anyways, my thing that I'm going to say is only going to work if you frame it like this. So I'm going to say it like this. If you want to look at it from the other way around, then it's side. Now there's an old, ancient, you could say truth if you don't want to say the word knowledge. But knowledge of truth is the same thing as truth. There's no knowledge between the truth and the knowledge. And now I'm saying that there's different ways that people have tried to achieve knowledge since forever. Different ways. For example, one of the ways is called Messiah, or like he says, Vishtait. Vishtait is a whole shitta, it's a whole way of knowing things. It's a good question. The Rishonim mostly think that this is not a way of, most Rishonim and early Chassidim, they all think that this is not really a way of knowing at all, but it's a way, it's sort of a way. Do we ever do a sheet of justifying that? What's called Kabbalah usually.
A sheet of justifying everything.
So slowly.
Hashem says,
Yeah, there was another. No, we didn't connect it. Yeah, but the shadow is that's not okay. Bekitzer, maybe that's just the first step, and I'm not. That's part of the justification. Okay, Bekitzer, there's such a category. That's first category number one.
Like the first one.
There was such a clear share about it. Okay, the first everyone can start there because, like he says, I'm starting to read a book. Why do you read a book? Because I trust that the guy that wrote the book knows what he's talking about. If not, most people can't. Maybe whatever. We can ask if there's such a thing of trying to just think by yourself. But in general, that's a normal thing to do. Okay, and it's also a mitzvah, like you said. Okay, so it's a mitzvah, fella. So, but that's one way of knowing. So, in certain people, certain people think that that's the only way of knowing. Like some religious people, at least, a lot of different people seem to think that that's the best or only way of knowing.
What?
To know that it says somewhere, or that someone said, or that someone with authority said, right? The correct authority said it. It makes sense as long as you don't have another way.
But how does a person know Lamaisiv?
Wait, well, I'm just saying that there's ways. I'm not saying if you could. I don't even know if you could know what it says. You have to understand. It's not so easy either. You have to read Hebrew and you have to know what it's a pshat. None of these ways are easy. Nothing is easy. And even if you say, I'll just have a Rebbe and I'll leave everything the Rebbe says, how are you going to know what the Rebbe says, right? It's not really a solution, right? It's a shtickle solution. That's what I'm saying. Some people, there's actually there's also this very old. There's another solution, right? I say that there's one category called knowing because someone said, like everything you ask, how do you know? Vishtait says somewhere, okay, now I know it, right? And then I'm going to say, okay, but how do you know that you're interpreting it correctly? How do you know that you understand it correctly? He says, no, you have to have a Rebbe. That's a Chassidish thing. Right. So you have to have a Rebbe. It's true, by the way, but I don't know if I ever gave a class justifying why you need a living Rebbe. But anyways, I did. There was a few classes in New York about it, and the other. Anyways, you need a Rebbe. But then you can have the same kasha. How do you know that you understand what the Rebbe says? So you always somehow, but it's true. There's such a thing. That's one way of knowing. Now there's another way. Okay, but in general, most people agree that that's a good first step, but it's not the ultimate step. In every shitta, like the Rebbe could tell you that exists and it's important. Without that, nothing starts and so on. But at the end, you're gonna have to know it for yourself. Even in halacha, the Rebbe could tell you the halacha, and then you learn from the Gemara yourself. Okay, the Gemara, wherever it goes back to, and so on. Yeah, that's one way of knowing. I don't think there's anyone that really thinks there's a ways of, okay, not for now. I don't know if there's a really think that that's the real only way. Maybe there's such a thing. Okay, so that's one way. Then but we're not talking about that right now. No one that has a sheet is about that, right? Because nobody believes me anyways. If you would believe me, then we could have a sheet that's based on that. But no reason to believe me, so it's not going to work. By? From Miatzma, not from a Rebbe.
That still exists today?
So wait, of course it exists. Shalit, maybe through a Rebbe. It's not a stira, you see? One of my big titles is that it's not a stira. Nobody was hearing. It's not a stira, it's because that's, you understand, you know why? You should know. I have to have people that already know my mahalach and they should tell to the other people. Hikras boire me'atzmo is not a stira to hikras boire me'rabba, because it's two different kinds of knowing. If you think that it's a stira, how do you know? If there's only one kind of knowing, then it's a stira. But since there's many kinds of knowing, or at least different frameworks and different how do you call it, modalities, it's not a stira. I could learn some, like let's say, take an example from a halacha example, right? It works like this. I could ask someone, what's the halacha? Are you allowed to smoke on Shabbos? It's very simple. Someone once called me. Okay, are you allowed to smoke an electronic cigarette on Shabbos? No. Smoking on Shabbos, everyone knows, it's havara. But are you allowed to smoke an electronic cigarette on Shabbos? So I don't know. So you could be a tippish that just asked the roof. Someone once called me. I told him, no, you're not allowed to. It was one of the easiest halacha questions. Actually, so that guy, he doesn't know that you're not allowed to. I mean, he knows that I said. He trusts me that this time I looked it up in Shulchan Aruch and Hilchas electronic cigarettes, and I told him that halacha. Okay. And now he could, but that's not a stira. And then tomorrow, if he comes to even to me or someone else, and he says, "Let's learn." So, okay, so there's hachmelucha avavara. We have to see if this makes that. So electric is a machlokes if it's avara, but when you're burning the thing, that's what it's for sure burning, for sure mavashal or something. Not even if it's avara, but for sure cooking. There's actual thing gets burned up in the thing. It's not like electronic cigarette doesn't happen electronically, right? The electronic is just the koich that's doing it, but it's lamasa, it's doing something. So that's the malacha. Shine. Maybe there's a heter gdom. Ich weiß nicht. We have to make it the tzomit as a Shabbos cigarette. Ich weiß nicht. But anyways, the pashas it's a shine. So now he understands also why it's also right. That's called knowing why, right? He knows why. So in other words, knowing why, now he knows himself, right? No, he doesn't know himself why Shabbos. You can go back a lot of levels, right? And why is Avodah Shabbos, and why is such a thing as Shabbos, and why? But at least on this level, he knows by himself. He doesn't need me. So it's not a stira, the fact that he believed me first, and now he knows. Now he doesn't need me, Kelly, but he knows me through me. I can be the one that taught him that there's klal and there's prat, and that the connection between the klal and the prat. And I'm teaching him what to know. I'm not teaching him to just say the words that I said, right? In the same way, if someone could be mekabel from Yitzchok could be mekabel from Avram Avinu, maybe in the first step, and maybe then he could say, Tati, but explain me why. And then he'll tell him why. So then it'll be Yekras B'Rim Atzma. Atzma is not an historical thing. It's a kind of, that's what I'm saying. It's not, nobody told you before. That's not the Chiddush of Avram Avinu. I mean, that maybe also a Chiddush. But that's not the Ikke. The Ikke and the Kid of Baal Shem Tov says, Lekayni, V'lekay V'sayni, Atzma, is that you have this kind of knowledge. It's more direct. It's more real. It's like the difference between someone that knows only the Mishnah Berurah and someone knows also the Lamdas. So knows also the why, the my Tama. That's why it's not a stira. It's not. You understand? Sure.
You're saying that
not a stira. That's why
is taking some other information and putting it and
it's knowing the why. It's knowing the why. That's a very simple way of saying it. The why. Lama.
The why.
Yeah. That's at least not. There's also like the historical according that nobody happens to have told me, but that's not the main thing. I think the main thing that is he knows the why. What the why is, that's now we have to get to that. But that's fine.
4 types, right?
Wait, I'm up to one type. Meanwhile,
I thought Chiddush was a Chiddush that it never. Chiddush Masma is the most clear and possible to be in the world.
Beside but that's one way of saying that is knowing why.
And then you say on him, it's not the Chiddush Masma.
Beside I'm going to get to that. Now you're getting into details of what this knowing is. So there's not knowing because someone else told you, and then there's knowing. Was clarifying that it's not a stira. People think that it's a stira. Nebuch, my father told me, so I can't be Avram Avinu. No, you could, because your father telling you doesn't help at all. When it helps you, but not for this level called knowledge, or that we're calling now das.
It's the place that you're going to reach yourself. It's not the place your father told you.
Exactly, it's a different. You could say it's a different madrega. It's a different sphere. Exactly. Only when one does whatever. Yeah, only everything that your father told you is only a sphere of malchus. No, it doesn't get beyond that ever. There's whole parts of malchus, but it's still malchus. Okay. Now, verstehst the code, right? Okay.
But Tzuvim.
Yeah. Makes sense, right? Anyways, it's Shem Aleim. No, there's a lot of tzarifim. Okay, we get the point, because Malchus means Mekabel. That's right. But Kitzer, now, okay, so now if we're searching for something beyond that, then there's a lot of ways of doing it. And there's always been. One way is one way is to try to change your brain. So let's say it like this. And the other way is to change your mind. So this is one way. One way, and the Rambam has this very serious criticism about this way. But one way is like the Ram Kaliska said, just say it enough times until it goes into your head. That's a real way, by the way. I'm not being mazalzel in it, like not saying that it doesn't work. It works. It works.
To say.
It's a gitta shala. Okay, it's a serious question. If you agree, no, but depends on this what you just said. According to me, it doesn't make sense. But according to your pshat, it does make sense. Yeah. Because if depends what knowledge is. If knowledge is knowing the why or what's the hechrech, same thing. Then it's hard to see maybe how meditation could help that for that, right? But if knowledge is having a more direct access, which is what the why is supposed to do, right? It's knowing it directly, or like you say, more clearly, or some kind of certainty, then definitely ecstasy can do it, right? If you say, I don't know there's a God, I go to Chai, like the Baditcheva said, the Baditcheva came home and said, she says that there's a God, and I know. You know the Masa? You know the Masa? This whole sheet is to explain the Chassidische Masas according to philosophy. You don't know yet?
Not this particular one.
You know all the Mas. I'm going to make a Perish Chassidische Masas. That's going to be the whole thing, and it's going to be the most radical book. There's famous story. I don't even know if it happened, but because it's like a simple, good story. That said that the Badishva or someone, one of the Chassidish people, he went to his Rebbe and then he came back, and his Shved Misnaget, of course, asked him, what did you learn in Nezrich or whatever? And he said, I learned that there's a God. He started laughing at him. Like, ask your kids over here, they'll also know that. He said, yeah, they say it, but I know it. That's the difference between saying and knowing. That's in Moed Nevuch and Perek Nun. There was a shir on this yesterday in Hebrew. Anyways, but what am I saying? So now the shayla is, how do you get from saying to knowing? That's the Chakira. And there's definitely a way that existed forever. It's called Derech whatever you want to call it. But it's just trying Bigadol ecstasy. I've heard a certain historian of whatever philosopher. He said that until he claimed that everyone until I don't know how that this was the correct way. It obviously gives people the experience of being more sure about it, of more directly.
Taking knowledge and making an idea. An idea.
Taking saying and making it knowledge, internalization. Yeah.
The whole question of knowing, you don't mean that you know. You mean say idea.
Yeah, but the knowing, I'm making that into the klal, and knowing is one way of
you
that.
Just went before you. I think
No, exactly.
Now you just went to
no.
Idea.
I said exactly. I'm exactly clear what I said. I said that knowing, in other words, accessing the truth. That's a correct definition. Well, there's a lot of kinds of truth. Accessing the truth that there's a table. There's a very simple way called touching the table. But we're talking about more abstract or intelligible things, right? At least, or maybe things that are beyond that. We have to ask about that. Then there's a quick question of how to do it. And one of the ways forever has been to, with how they say in Arachim, come to a Shabbos Suda. It works. It's a true way. Or it says in Tehillim, come to the Beis HaMikdash or whatever, something like that. Or maybe take some drugs. I don't know. Those are all ways that seem to be in the same oilam. I don't know if they're the same exact thing. There's probably differences between all of them. But they're all the same thing. That they're, and you could say maybe they're not even focusing at das. They're focused at a kind of das, like it's a das, the kind of knowledge. It's for sure, they actually, by the way, the word knowledge is very good, because like you said, you're the one that started using the word knowledge, not me. All the people that have those experiences think that they know something. Or no, shal is how it works, and they definitely have a lot, in other words, they have a lot of certainty, right? There's a very big difference between someone, if someone goes to the Mezrit Shemagid and he teaches you to have a great Vaikus or great, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, experience is a very weird, bad word, but to touch the truth or to touch God directly by jumping up and down for 6 hours with the right kavanas or whatever, then they have that experience. Man, it's very hard, and they actually come home a lot more certain that there is a God. Man, it's fact. They have more certainty, right? Certainty is a value of knowledge. Like I can have a suffix, a vadai, and svek. I can have a big certainty. So that gives you certainty. At least people think it gives them certainty. Okay.
So, but it is also, you have to. Maybe just. Should we also ask?
Maybe just dimyonis.
Maybe just a straight other action.
So the Heilige Rambam. So listen. But there's also. That's why I'm getting. I have to get that.
Do we also have to ask?
You didn't hear
what
Mashi.
kind of things are knowable this way? Like
Also,
tell you about something.
Yeah.
Like, maybe you know a certain knowledge.
It seems like some people might say. It seems like there's at least a tzad that it actually teaches you new things. Even the Rambam talks about this.
New things about things or new things?
About the truth, about the world, yeah. Like you would say, yeah, like, and this is a big question if it exists, but there's always been such a way. People, let's say, if you're, what kind of things? Like people say, I didn't know that there's a God at all, and then, well, it's not, everyone heard of the idea, but let's say there would be someone that never heard of the idea. I don't know if there's such a person in the world, but let's say there would be such a person, and then he would do a certain thing, a certain activity, a certain ritual, a certain avodah, a certain whatever, and then he would come out saying, wait, I found a new thing. Yeah, I think that happens at some level, or it could happen. I mean, it's not mufrach, not beyond reality.
But like, do you know a new Like I can know there's different kinds
But
of
we
things
said about
I
this
can
word
know,
that could change your mind. No, all kinds of things that could change your mind.
Right, there are
Again,
all kinds of
people
things that
go in with one
should know
opinion
if
and
I
they
wanna-
come out with another opinion.
If I wanna
That's
know
a way of
something
changing your mind and telling you something, right? How does he find out a new thing?
if I want to know
In the way of ecstasy.
okay, but if I want to know, I'm saying
Prophecy,
that does also
prophecy.
tell us about what's being known, right? That it's known this way. Like if I want to know something about math.
Maybe
I shouldn't-
also.
I shouldn't
How do
go
you
into
know?
a chemistry
No,
lab and
possibly.
stuff. No, I'm not saying that ayahuasca.
It's
helps
possible.
you.
Maybe ayahuasca tells you math also. I don't know.
No, maybe it does, but I'm
There were
saying
there were some great mathematicians that said that there was a great Indian mathematician in the last that said that there was a god that.
For it to tell you that.
Okay, so that's the correct tachona for that god coming
but
to
if
you.
I want to know, if I
Beseder.
want to know how many animals there are, I shouldn't study mathematics, right? It's just the wrong discipline.
Beseder, but we're not talking. See, we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about the moving from knowing to knowing. Right,
Yeah,
it's a little
but
different.
I'm only asking, do we know something?
The moving from
about
saying to
it?
knowing.
We also know something about what's being known by the way that it is known, right?
Possibly, okay, so let's talk about divine things, talk about hechere zaken. No,
Okay,
talk
how are
about
these things known?
maybe, actually, I think even simpler things, intellectual things, the intellectual truth,
Oh,
the
that's
truth,
yeah.
the truth of how things really are. Like this thing, this word reality or whatever it exactly means, as opposed to appearance, right? As opposed to how things seem to be. Ich weiß nicht. I'm just saying a very general thing. Now, there was always such a mahalach. This is such a mahalach. I think that, and it works. And again, people, they see the funny thing is that it's a waste of time to talk about these kind of things. Like if it happened to you, then it happened, and then you know, then we could start talking about it. But if it didn't happen, whatever, isn't it? Man. William James, in his end of his book, The Variety of Religious Experience, has a chapter of if it's justifiable, and he basically says yes. The things that people find out by
Ecstatic.
fleeing in him or whatever. Though sometimes it just happens to people. Kitzer, there's such a thing. Now, and it changed. Now, what the chilik, it changes your mind. It changes your mind. Okay, it does change your mind. Now, there's the chiddush is. Now, we could criticize it, but I'm just saying there's such a thing.
What does it mean, Shem Shachim, that level of lyric?
Who? How's it got to do with anything?
If knowledge is based upon exercises and just things, then why does it have lyric? The same way.
No, it could be a mistake. I don't see. You see, if this is a way of knowing, it could be a. See, nobody was. These are things that I said so many times. If it's a way of knowing, that every way of knowing has mistakes, right? If knowing is believing your Rebbe, then you can believe the wrong Rebbe. If knowing is ecstasy, then you can have the wrong kind of ecstasy. If knowing is rise, then you can have the wrong rise. I don't think none of these things. All of these things have mukam litis, or like a tzad klippa, if you want to call it. Like there's always nothing besides for actually know what. I think everything. And we have to. I mean, obviously not everything, because there must be some way of not knowing the difference between truth and emes and shek.
A way to know, and
not a way to find out
what you're actually knowing. So you're always knowing something, right?
Well, the things that we know, we hope that they're actually things that were there before we knew them. Yeah. Otherwise, they're not knowing it, and just imagine.
Paths to
That's
get
the whole
to
thing.
knowing. You can
Yeah.
read it, you can meditate. Okay.
Yeah, no, we're not reading. So you could
Whatever.
meditate. That's one way. Now there's another way called that was a big. Not only meditation, or it's just one kind of thing that people know about nowadays. There's a lot of like if someone tells you in order to know Kabbalah you have to go to the mikveh a lot of times, right? People say that, right?
Okay.
So I don't think he's crazy.
I think it's true.
Yeah. So what is he? But you have a mahalach to understand why it's true. I'm not sure what it is. But what he's saying is.
Why do you think it is?
What he's saying is that there's kinds of knowledge that happen that have to do with certain things that you do. I can't give you a share and explain it, or maybe I could, but you won't understand it. The only way to understand it is by going to the mikveh.
Generally doing things or doing specific things?
Very simple.
No, it's the mikveh that gives you the knowledge.
It's a chayyin, not in das. And more person is talking, more person is going to gobble das.
No, but are you saying that just God doesn't like people that don't go to the mikveh? Nah, I don't think that's enough.
What?
There has to be an explanation.
Doesn't like
That
people?
God doesn't like the people that don't go to the mikveh, so he doesn't tell them Kabbalah.
No, but Dvekus is bad. You're saying, right? Dvekus is a connection, right? So.
Beside that, you're. Yeah, but what makes it tumah? I mean, in other words. Okay. In other words, if you like retranslate, yeah, but if you retranslate knowing as like accessing something somehow, maybe you need permission from that thing. I don't know how that. It sounds weird when I say it like this. But it does make it like, but it's always possible. It's not. It goes into your head. Anyway, there's such a way, okay? I don't think there's a problem with there being tumah or mistakes in any of these ways. Like, I'm pretty sure that every way has mistakes. There's no way without mistakes. Even going to the mikveh sometimes has mistakes. There's no way that doesn't have wrong ways of doing it. So that's not a kashrus. The fact that some people went to the mikveh and had the wrong pshat, so that just shows that they went, maybe he had the wrong kavanah in the mikveh, or maybe no, for sure, no, maybe. He's saying dancing is going to give you, maybe if you dance for Avodah Zarah, that's the problem. Could you dance for Avodah Zarah? Why didn't you dance? Or maybe the dancing itself has something wrong. Like the Kuzri thinks like this in general, or whatever, the people that think like this. You could just say the wrong, if you say the right Nusach, then the right Malach comes. If you say the wrong Nusach, a bad Malach comes. So it doesn't mean that saying the Nusach doesn't make the Malach come. It just means that you call the wrong Malach, right? By saying the wrong words. It makes perfect sense, right?
So particular actions
I don't see why it doesn't make sense. Yeah, exactly.
Not generally actions could just.
Also, knowledge actions that have to do with this, with certain kind of knowledge, of course. Kids, what I'm trying to say is just this is just. I'm saying that, but I'm just saying that the fact that there's a good or a bad way. People make mistakes with these kind of things doesn't mean that they're not a way to know at all. People make mistakes with every kind of every single thing. As far as I know, I don't know of anyone that people don't make mistakes with.
You might have the right method, but just doing it wrong.
Yeah. It doesn't frag up the whole method. It doesn't make the whole method wrong just because you need to find the criteria. We do need to give like a pshat. Why this way is said? True. You need the criteria. It's maybe a good question.
Maybe do some other action to know why this criteria is good.
No, no. There's people that are worried about this question. I'm not the first one. We're not the first people in history to have this kasha. It's a kasha that's spoken about in all this forum that talk about these things in everywhere.
To go to the mikveh. So then
what does skuli mean? Skuli just means
how that would work or not work.
Skuli just means that.
If you went to the mikveh, you went to the mikveh, right?
No, we measure it by testing the people. The ones done the mikveh pass the test, and the ones that didn't go don't pass the test. If that would be true, I don't know.
And Shekleri he said everything he got was from his entire mikveh school.
It says one time, and not the next day, then another pshat. But say that.
What?
It's one of the things that it says. Don't only say that. This study. Okay, but get it.
Shemtov said also, right?
Putting it together.
It's on the Shemtov what you're remembering. Okay, so Lachnei 9. Okay, Lachnei 9. Yeah, but that doesn't mean that. That's not the Hoshi. Okay. Listen, this is not a shir going to the mikveh. Anything about going to the mikveh.
By the way, I didn't go to the mikveh.
But it's bichlal. No.
I personally get tremendous knowledge from mikveh.
But it's nothing to do. But also al pi gemara, al pi pshat.
Is there any tzad you have to go to mikveh before Aristotle?
For sure, only for that. But for sure. No, but because emavira, like even the pshat of the gemara, al pi negla. Of course, that's for sure true, right? But we're getting totally off topic. It's for sure true that if you don't learn something seriously, you're not going to understand it. So the Gemara says that the reason why Tfilas Ezra was not because it's Tumah, but because Talmud Torah needs Emavira. That's true. That's a plain natural thing. It's not Nishkansgila B'chlal. That's just a fact.
What were the two sides?
The Gemara says like there's a pshat. It does hold with that pshat, which is that Tfilas Ezra is about Tumah, some kind of Tumah, and the Gemara denies that. Or at least the Gemara paskins that. The maskun of the Gemara in Bracha says that it's not because of that. But there's still Tekunas Ezra. The reason for Tekunas Ezra originally wasn't that. This is at least one of the pshatim, but it's because that's why the Torah are different from other things, and that's why only this tumah is a problem, right? There's a lot of tumas. Why is not the problem? The reason is not because of the tumah. There's such a tumah, man. You become tumah from this. But that's not the no shaychas Torah. The shaychas Torah is that, like we see by Prisha the Torah, right? That the Torah need emavira v'reses v'ziyah. Now that's not, and since the Shechva Zera is Choyk V'Kalas Rosh. It's by definition not Emavira. Nothing to do with Tumah or Tahara, just to do with seriousness or whatever exactly Ema and Yira and Yerses and whatever these things are. No, it's a fact. Okay, now you're asking like a kasha how exactly it works, like Tam Yemitzvahs. The fact is you make a chilik, it's like Mikveh Machitza. Yesterday I was like this and this morning it's different. Why does the mikveh help for that? No, the Hipshat, like what it says, it's only Shlei from the Chum Metzion. It's only made that you should not do this. Then you ask, so the mikveh is just like nowadays that the mikveh is just cost $2, it doesn't work.
Or if you go every day, for sure it doesn't work.
Of course, true. So Mizan, the people that go every day have a different shot. Okay, but the teretz is that this somehow does make it less, makes a difference, makes you. So we can't hate it. I'm just saying that okay. Nachle Nani is this is not a shina mikveh or nachana from Matan Torah or whatever. Those are all good things. Anyways. Also, shower is auch get piadach. Shine. I get it. I know very few people that learn before going to the shower, so the Kitzur Ramazah is that that this is one way. Now, what I want, my chiddush was not this one. Chiddush was that this is a way, and needs beririm like every other thing. But there's another way which was invented by very few people can do it, and was invented by Socrates, more or less. And that's the way of proof, or the way of he called it the way of contradiction. Actually, I forgot the word in Greek. The way of
Demonstrative proof.
no, of arguing.
Dialectic.
Yeah, so that's one word, but let's call it like that. And that's a way that, and this is what I'm trying to get at, to try to impress over here, is that the way of proof, or the way derech hasechel or bina or whatever you want to call it, is a way. It's supposed to be a way to access the truth, an analogous way to the way that you understand that going to the mikveh is a way to access the truth. You know what I'm saying? Most people think that seichel is like this. There's tmimim that go to the mikveh, and then there's abakarsim that don't believe anything you tell them unless you prove it to them. No, it's not the pshat. There's truth. Everyone agrees there's truth. What exactly the truth is, nobody knows. But everyone agrees that the truth. Without that, nothing starts. Man, that's a different discussion. Now the truth is very far from us. That's another thing we have to agree. Otherwise, somewhat, at least it's far, because we're stupid. We'll start off stupid, at least. Maybe we have a lot of things, but halacha l'mas we start off stupid. I think that's also a miskim, right? So there's truth, and I'm dumb. And the truth is smart. When it's just lemala mimeni, exactly you say smarter or dumber. This is one way of saying it. And therefore, we need to find a way to get to it. And I have a lot of opinions or a lot of ideas in my head or a lot of conceptions, right? Really, that's what this person was talking about. Really, I have a lot of basic ways of living or basic ways of thinking the world, which is how everything that we live is. I step out of the house and I assume that there's a step there, right? And it didn't go away since yesterday, right? Remember David Hume talking about this? And because I have an amina that says that things don't move since yesterday, right? Right? Or I talk to you and I assume that talking means that it's going to go into your head. Everything we do is based on thousands of assumptions and knowledge, when maybe it's only a hegel, but some kind of knowledge that I have. Innately, where I get it from, we can get all these questions about there's such a thing. And if we assume that all of that is not enough, or is not precise enough, right? Obviously, just by walking around, we don't know science, we don't know the truth. Right? Even the scientists agree with this, right? You think that things just fall down? No, there's gravity, whatever. It's not so simple. So therefore, we need to find a way to get from A to B, right? We need a way to get from ignorance to truth. It's very complicated, and we need to find a whole pshat, how this is even possible. There's a whole, there's the whole, there's all these paradoxes, how it's even possible. But that's the fact. That's what we're doing, right? That's why. By the way, this is why Rebbe is one of the ways, because the teacher.
Also paradoxical.
It's paradoxical, but at least when there's a teacher that you seems to already have it, so he is actually a bas of adam, actually a human being that has truth. So then, okay, it's not like we're looking for something. It's very hard to look for something we don't know what you're looking for, right? It's big baya in searching for truth, especially, and that's why most people don't get ever to the truth, because they never know someone. In every kind of truth, and there's a big problem. That's why in a book, maybe, but a book is just a theory. You don't know if it actually exists in a human, right? The kind of truth, the kind of wisdom, or the kind of knowledge that we're looking for is the human one, the ones that could be chal on a human being, right? Otherwise, there's a shtickle toy in a book. So, and therefore, and it's a good question to explain how it works, but the fact is that this is one of the ways it works. But the tachlis is that you need a way, we need to do something very radical. It's very radical. That's why I say that everyone that comes to Mashin has to sign a consent form. You buy it? That will destroy your mind. Not me, Chaz Hashem. But just like, it's true. That's why there's not a simple thing to do. Truth is thinking is very dangerous, or learning is very dangerous, or experience, all these things are dangerous. If it's not dangerous, it's not worth doing it. But it's dangerous. You have to be nechs b'shalom, you have to be whatever. Everyone has their own conditions. My condition is just that I speak so weird and stupid, complicated that nobody understands unless they want. But this is a real thing. In other words, if it's not, and dangerous in the sense that it can make you meshega, like the hitzvah nifka, like, because if someone really is going to start wandering people, it happens to people. You think that you can't change someone's mind. There are people that if you tell them, what's that the next time you step your foot, the floor is going to still be there. You don't know how's that. You have it. The pusik, maybe let us learn a medas class. Okay, the pusik, if that makes you, but who says the pusik is going to still be there, huh? Okay, so no, and this is a basic. This is my son today came and said, Tati, how do we know that when I don't worry, that when I see blue and you see blue, that we're talking about the same thing, right? Maybe you see a zombie. Yeah, they think about it beside that, and it goes next, and then goes back to the
Since
game. Nothing.
1623, we've been thinking about this.
Well, I think it's a no. Before that also,
Probably before.
it's a problem.
Why? I thought about
Oh, he says that it's because okay. The kids, it's basic. No, but he don't ask the kasha because I made him a shaking maybe also, but it's a normal thing, right? Little kids asking, how do you know when I close my eyes that the world is still there, right? Maybe come back again, like open. But if you really wonder about this, and by the way, this should be a good teretz to this. I'm not saying this is a stupid kasha and just do it and you see that it works. No, if you're interested in truth, you should find it. Maybe the teretz is that Hashem makes it. At least that's a teretz. And you say I have betuchen every time I take a step, it's just a minute. Say that maybe, but there has to be a teretz, you know. I used to. Now this means that everyone is looking for a way to step over the gulf between ignorance and knowledge, or between not knowing the truth and knowing the truth. So there's a lot of ways of doing it. Oh yes, I'm such a long drusha about this here. The kids said a lot of ways of doing it, and one of the ways that were discovered by some people is to use your cycle. An amazing discovery, by the way. It's nicht a discovery. Some people until this day disagree that it's going to work. Maybe it doesn't work, but at least it's a huge, crazy discovery. It's a crazy proposition. Why? You know, Socrates goes and talks to the priests over there, whatever, and they say they know, and he says, no, you don't know. Explain me what you know, but you don't. The kids, the youth pro, right? And has this tana, he has this eminent, basically an eminent, because we have to show it that it works. But he's like, this is guiding his idea is that just by using our mind, like what we should know, sort of what we know as kashas and shivas and tanas, and you say what you think it is, and then we'll see if it works. That's basically the method, right? What do you think the truth is? Okay, is it stem? Let's figure it out. Maybe at the end we'll find out the truth. This whole idea.
You're not going to always end up with kashas?
Maybe you will. That's such a shit. But maybe that. The ideal or the minute. There's everything. There's a certain mahalach that says that you will end up with knowing some things, or at least it's worth. Maybe after 2,000 years of people doing it, maybe you'll find out what you don't know. Could also be.
You always find is that
but you didn't. How many years did you spend on one kasha till now?
Every single time I think I got it, I see somebody else.
Okay, but how many years was that for? You're not 70 years old yet, I think.
And
maybe it takes 65 years.
I'm just saying is
when I did
enough times, when I did enough.
If you have such a amount, you take
Miss the vow. That's miss the vow. That's just the prior time.
I realized.
Just because you
I realized beginners and Shnei and Tzefias, and so I realized that you give it up.
Oh, but so Socrates has a long drusha against giving it up in the what's it called? It was a whole. He talks about exactly this kasha. It says that's like someone has a friend. And twice he didn't show up on time to the shiur, so he's not his friend anymore. If you're a friend of this mahalach, then you have to be neman to it.
It's like there was
By the Rambam, he says he was the Vikuchim, and he wasn't my.
That's the Kuzri says that. Doesn't say in the Rambam.
The Rambam says it.
No. The Rambam actually says the opposite. The Rambam says, okay, you want to know how about from Vinny?
If you want to be provocative, you ask people why. You ask them why they don't believe in communism. They say, look, we tried in the 20th century and it didn't work. Because we tried for Mashiach in the 20th century and it didn't work either. But this you believe in and this niche.
Because this makes more sense. No, okay, it's it.
It's just so maybe communism.
No, we try. Okay, but kids, what I'm saying is, okay. Actually, yeah.
No, but we decide that it should come.
What? The communism?
What?
No one ever told you it's coming.
What?
Okay.
It's working. No one told you it's coming.
Okay, listen.
So maybe Takas.
Okay, I don't want to. Let's stop a Mashiach. Malt me that
They're trying to make it work now.
To go to the library.
They're trying to make it work now. And they're saying it didn't work.
The belief. Maybe Mashiach's coming in 3 weeks, and if we try today, it's not going to work, right?
The belief is a higher.
Okay, we'll figure out Mashiach another time. Okay. Maybe he came already and vouched it up. And then it's gerecht. What do I want to say? No, that's not the point. It's not shatin. What I'm saying is, anyway, there's such a. You have to know how to do it. Also, that's the Rambam says in Zleis that most people don't know how to do it, so they shouldn't start. But if you know how to do it, then by the way, this is true. It's true. It's just like the chilek between. But the thing is, and we discussed about this. The thing is that this is a much harder way, much harder, and takes a lot more patience. And many people say, yeah, I've thought 3 times and could you explain me? Oh, kids, I'm not talking about you, I'm just saying. It's a way, and it's a way with a lot more mistakes. Must be, because the whole mahalach is that we're going to start with mistakes and figure out which of the mistakes are wrong, right? But there's a lot of time. That's why this is a better way. But I'm just saying that it's such a way, that it is a way, and it's a way for doing the same thing. That was my ikar shir.
Is there validity to the fact that it also includes an explanation for the other things, whereas those don't?
I'm not sure if it does. Maybe other people could say the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's true. I think the main tana is. The main tana is that it works, and it works better than the other way. I don't know if better for most of the time.
Isn't doing it has the validity when you're thinking as opposed to when you're meditating or when you're going to the mikveh?
I'm not sure. No, maybe it's the opposite. Maybe that thing makes this valid. That's not an eye.
Is there's ways to know when you're wrong.
Yeah, but you see, the other people also have such ways. They must have. Otherwise, they're stuck in Halbtechikun Ishton. If your malach has no way to know when you're wrong, then don't go to that guy. If you go to a Rebbe and he says this is the way to find something, but how do Mr. Ayahuasca, whoever it is, Mrs. Ayahuasca, must have a way to know when you're making a mistake. If they don't,
the point is they have.
I think they do.
But how do you know when true is true?
No, they must have a way.
You feel it.
They must have a way.
Yeah.
No, they must have a way. No, I'm sure they have a way. I don't know feeling. They must have a way. If they don't have a way, then it's not worth talking to. I'm asking. Everyone has a way. I don't think everyone has a way, and that's why they say you need a guide, you need a Rebbe to explain you the correct way. No, everyone is moide with this. I just think that it's a way. I don't know if it's better. It's a longer way and a harder way, and it's more. One thing that we say in praise of it is there's this thing that he says. I know this thing, but I'm trying to say something else. One thing. Well, it does. We have to think how much. Yeah, I think it does. By the way, it has a very good track record this way. Just to be very clear, it has a very good track record. Despite what people say, because those are a lot of the things that people say is what they talk about. A lot of people that say that they think, but they didn't think. So that's not gonna. You have to also know, because the whole thing of the derech of thinking is to know who is not thinking and pretending to think. So just because a lot of people made mistakes, because those are stupid people, right?
Is there one seichel or 2 seichels?
There's only one truth. Seichel, I don't know.
No, I'm saying the person using a seichel. How does the person know if he's using?
All people converge on the same. By the way, this is true. They all converge. Maybe they have different language or different ways of saying it, different conceptualizations. All the same.
Then if you use 2 seichels.
No, nobody. That's, by the way, nobody actually believes that. Nefesh Bahamis is the one that doesn't have seichel or not correct seichel. It does not really. I know what he says. Because no, I don't think there's a false. In other words, faket. The whole chiddush. Oh, let me say. Let's something. By the way, this is something that Tanya. No, this is something that Tanya would agree with. Actually, there's something. Let me say something else. Oh, you want me to give a sheet in praise of the Derech HaSeichel? There's a lot of praise. I have a lot of praise for it. And the main part is that I didn't come to say praise. I came to say how hard it is. I didn't come to say how good it is. It's good because it's away from going out of mistakes and the truth, which almost no other ways have. In other words, if you're a Getch Kedina, let's say, which Socrates Lemushal was, or Avram Avinu before he, like the Rambam said, before he found out the truth, there's very few ways that are going to take you out of mistakes besides for this way. Maybe there are none. Maybe there are. I don't know. Some people try to say there are. But in general, historically, the people that actually got through it are usually through asking kashas.
Basically saying,
but there's no chachma.
basically if your Rebbe has the wrong beliefs.
No, of course it's before. We're talking lamat lamala. If you're stuck.
The way is not. The way is. The knowledge has to come through us. When you pick the bina.
In the world, you have to remember our sheet. There's another sheet. There's a difference between the way things are and the way we get to them. Another sheet that we say a lot of times. There's a difference in the way things are and the way things we get to them. Maybe the way things are is also. By the way, I don't know. Maybe the way things are also like this, but that's another discussion. But for sure, by the way, this is actually a very good mala. I'm not saying it's a huge mala. By the way, that's one. I have a list of things, but if you read Tzach, there are other things. Didn't prepare this sheet, so I'm just saying things. One of the things that Tzeichel does is it shows you much easier the falsity of false things. You know something? Let's say it doesn't get the truth. Let's say I could take your side, but which is a lot of legitimate. That maybe it never gets to a truth, but it very easily shows you the sheker of sheker, much better than anything else. Maska? Because if you go with feeling lemushil, then I think having a big car seems like a tachlis in life. It feels quite like the tachlis. Well, maybe not mamish, but for a few minutes. But if I could show you, and there's like basic people don't agree with me, but there's basic arguments to show that that's not the tachlis in life, and that's a plishtaraya, and then you're never going to think against the tachlis. You're still going to enjoy the car. That's because you're nefesh bahamis or whatever is not maskim. That's nefesh bahamis, but that's not real cycle. Because if I ask you, you'll right away know. But it is, and also I don't know if it really. That's another shmis. We had a shit about the nefesh bahamis once already. About the three souls, about the machlokes. I have machlokes the Tanya because I said the Tanya is missing a part. But anyways, the point is that's actually a way of showing the shaker of shaker much better. And since the problem that we have mostly is that we start with a lot of lies, not that we want to know the truth, because that's one thing. If you just don't have any mistakes, then who you are. But most people that have a lot of mistakes, so that's a better way. That's one thing. Another thing is that's communicable. Very big mala, by the way. I know the older mystics hate it, but it's great mala. Like the whole thing of Matan Torah, I want to say this. I say this, yeah, there's Drusha about Matan Torah. The whole thing of Matan Torah, is, according to the Kizri at least, is that there was a lot of people there, right? And I once said a sheet against this because it's very easy to convince a moinam of shtissim. It's very hard to convince a few smart people of things. But the ideal, now I'm saying a pshat, the ideal...
In the Homaynam, you will a lot of smart people.
No, so the ideal is that, according to the Kizri, if you want to... That's not what the Kizri says, but I'm going to say. The ideal is that if you can convince a lot of smart people of one thing, then you're probably right. And that's why it's very important to not have achdas before Matan Torah, like the Hamid Rebbe Akiva. Because if we're all ba'achdas and we all agree to the same thing, then there's no use of all of us, like the halacha, if there's a lot of Talmidim of one Rebbe that agree, it's only one shitter, right? It doesn't count because they're also saying what the Rebbe said, like Resan Shkoyach. If you're a bunch of different rabbis and you all agree, then, like the 70 people that translated the Torah of Yevonish, So if they all say the same thing, then we know that it's a nest. But that's the idea. So, and that's a very great mal of cycle over. It's not easy. I'm going to get to this. It's a great mal of cycle over whatever the other way is. At least said to be. I'm not sure. People argue with me about this, which is that it's communicable. It's teachable. And it's very important for the truth to be teachable. At least maybe there's some truths that are not teachable, but the ones that are teachable are very valuable because they're teachable, and again, because they're teachable, that means that you could criticize me, right? Me and Yeshia Benin could disagree with Torah Sheba'al Peh in the same way, it says in the Gemara, and the Rambam, because Torah Sheba'al Peh is the teachable part of the Torah, right? It's not never. We both agree, we both have a shared public understanding of what the basis is, and how the ways to argue are, and therefore we can get to a truth much faster than the other way. The other way, we just have to find the one guy that has the correct intuition or that has the correct hasaga. And this is why the Nigla Satayra always looks for a rabbim, and the people that are into not Nigla, they always look for Yochid. Very true. Anyways, Shain, but it's also true that if there's one Yochid that knows, it's Ochet Epis, but it's the Yochid Memcha, it's very, and dan Yechidish, and dan Yechidi ala Echad. It's can't push the Zach.
These are the Ivrim, right?
The Ivrim?
Yeah.
Who? The ones that the one people that know the truth?
They're the Ivrim, they're the argument.
Well, no, the Ivrim are the ones that argue with everyone, like Avram Avinu. Avram Avinu is working in the world, in the shared world, right? He has achdas with everyone. He says you're just having a mistake. Let me explain your mistake. You think the Zen is the Zen. It's your own cycle. By the way, this is also a very great thing, because that's why it's also like a amina, certain amina, because the amina of the cycle people is that everyone already knows the truth. Right? Because otherwise the Dahtaka doesn't start. But you just don't understand, right? Because if Avram Avinu comes and says something like this, right? This is how the Rambam describes it, or I don't know if he says this, but something like this, right? You come to Avram Avinu and he tell you who's the God, and he says the Son, right? Why is the Son the God? In other words, you already know there's such a thing called God. We both agree on that, sort of the definition of what God is. You already know, I don't have to tell you, that's something called the Son, right? And you know what these two things. Now Avram Avinu says, wait, the Son is the God, okay, let's wait for Mincha time. Where's their God? I don't know what the kasha exactly here is, but it's the kasha is based on things that the person already knows, right? Saying you're God. Let's say something like this.
The kasha is that Emes is true.
Very good. So let's say something like this. Let's say you agree. Not I'm telling you this, right? Avram is not mechalish this. This Arab is he agrees that God has to be something that stays always. Anish kan God. That's one definition. How does he get that? I didn't teach him. He knew it himself. He's just confused. He thought that I don't know, what did he think? Whatever, I'm not going to say. He had a teretz for this kasha, but I've already shown him that it's not a good teretz. Shine. But therefore I showed him that you already knew, really. You just had a mistake, because you thought that there is a stira minayabay. You thought that there's a God that dies in the night. A God doesn't die. So you're just confused. So that's why Seichel Mahalach is ultimately based on like a nefesh, on the Nitzah. That's the mino, that's the whole theory. Otherwise you couldn't be able to teach anything to anyone. There's other ways maybe to explain it, but one of the easy ways is to say this, right? I can only teach you something in Seichel because you already know it. You just don't know it fully because I need to remind you, whatever, that's the whole thing. But it's obviously true, and this is also why the Seichel, by the way, this is why Seichel...
You do know, right?
Exactly. But in other words, but the basis on which we're arguing is something that you have just like I do. That's why the Seichel people often accuse them of Gava, but it's the opposite. The Seichel people are the ones that say that the truth is in every soul in the world, in every human soul. Just many of them are confused, and they need a lot of teaching to get from their confusion to the truth. But when I teach you, I'm not that Ichab. There's a very big difference. That's also you can see the difference in Nigla and this. And Nigla works like this, and that's why I'm pro Nigla today. I'm just saying pro Nigla. I think that the Yiddish and Nistra also works like this. That's why we have, but not for now. For the most part, besides for a few Yetzim and Aklal. And Nigla goes like this. Not exactly, but the Rebbe is not really bigger than the Talmud, right? When I go to a Rebbe, like in a Nigla world, I'm not Makabel Torah from Eretz Shiva, right? Maybe Maver the Torah, right? Is how do they call it? I forgot the Litvish word for this. Is Moiser, is like the funnel, right? And hopefully his funnel is not too schmutzig that he's giving you something that actually someone before him said it comes from the Shirabani ultimately, right? But Lemaisa, we're both agreeing, let's say Chasimus Talmud, we both agree that there's a Talmud Bavli, and that's what we have to understand. Now I don't understand how to read it, so I need you to explain me. But ultimately, in the end of the day, I could argue with you. Now maybe I can't or I could. That's technical questions. But ultimately, you're not above me, b'mhus. You're not essentially. I'm not learning from you. Ultimately, I'm learning from Moshe Rabbeinu. The Rambam says this, and also this was a class last week. Okay, because. Ultimately, we're both learning Moshe Rabbeinu's Torah, whatever, Kabbalah, Moshe Torah Messina, and so on. Just happens to be that you're my Rebbe, and you'll notice that in the and this, if you want to like, even I'll be derech emes, even I'll be, if you like to philosophize this and make it premise, what it means is that, like we say, every Yiddish neshama was v'hasina, right? So how is he my Rebbe? And why is he my Rebbe? And I'm the Talmud. Man neshama zochim v'hasina. People said this, this Chiddush Maaseh they call like this. Like the Rebbe told him something, says, "My neshama was masina too." Platz. In other words, I also have to understand. What does it mean? I also understand. I also read the Torah. I not only read the Torah, I also learned it correctly and whatever. And I also understand that maybe for you it's correct this, and for me it's correct this. So that's a lot of achdus. That has a lot of. It's very nice shit to this. There's some other people that claim that you need a Rebbe because the Rebbe has access to truth that you don't have access to, by definition. I'm not saying who says this, but some people say this.
Well,
and
say it, no?
all, very few people in Yiddishkeit, I think, say this. Betachlis. Everyone says this.
Batanya says it very clearly.
I don't know. I'm not saying who. Yeah, I know. So a very few people, like two. That's only two people in the history of 10,000 Gdolei Yisrael. Man, it doesn't count. It's not even a meat. Ich weiß nicht. Man darf mal eins on each one. Also, I'm not sure. I have to be lametzches. Because there's some. I don't know because they could mean something different. The Tanya says doesn't say this. The Tanya mean in Chelik Beis, in Perek Beis, and about the nefesh. Yesh la'ayin. I don't know if it's a rai. No, yesh la'ayin. Man darf mal eins, but it's nicht kein rai. I don't know what exactly that means. But the point is, in general, this is not ungenehm in the Shitta, and in general. Most Yidden don't believe that their Rebbe is really hard in them. Again, even that is not. It's always a question of in Chabad it's called if it's derech mavar or if it's derech tzlapshis. It's a good shal. It's not so simple. No. It's just what studies have nothing to do. The shal is what the relation between the Rebbe and the Talmud is. Is the Rebbe just someone that's teaching you something that he learned from someone or that he learned from the truth? And be'etzem you could have it directly too. Just like I said before about Yitzchok Avini. Yitzchok Avini learns from Avini how to be makras b'oreh me'atzma. Right, that's one mahalach. Or is the pshat the Rebbe is the one that's makras b'oreh, and everyone has to be tuffel to the Rebbe's akras b'oreh. I think that all the chiddushim that say this, they're just talking to people that they know they're not yechodes to be makras ma'atzma. So beside this, so you'll be nitful to the Rebbe. At least you'll get that. That's how it started. I think so, and that's true. And also, all of us are like that. Most people start off there. Yeah. I don't think that it's be'etzem the shit. Only the rest of it really believe in this. Maybe the Lubavitches on some days.
Maybe the Malach.
No, the Ramnech for sure is saying this. What I said the first. It's bullshit because otherwise, like, this is a real problem. Because whatever, why was there's not a shit in the Chassidus? Otherwise, it's a real problem because if you assume, but there's a bit another chiddush. But if you assume that in order to have real Yiddishkeit, in order to have real Avodas Hashem, you need to have a certain direct access. It's not enough to be ish mi piesh, right? Which is al pi pshat, it's enough. Bis Mashiach et kimen, Rashi says you should kain him and shikas pi. But until then, it's enough. Then you don't need it ever. But if you say that if you're basically in the this very radical, like the Chazal Lowy says, leichel avad echad emes. Remember? And ever said a shit about this Chazal Lowy? I don't know. The Chazal Sharich says leichel avad echad emes. Emes umanaf l'saf. He quotes someone saying this. I don't know who. Nobody worships the true one. Echad emes, the true one. Wachad dala something. The true one, which means the Ensof, the Bekitze. Ela novi hadar b'tivai, I have l'saf b'sichla. Either if you're novi, so you have it naturally, or if you're a philosopher, you know it b'derech seichel. That's how we got the whole thing of derech seichel. That's Fersh Chazal. And you see, the Chazal was a shtickle l'saf, but auch gehalten as there could be a natural way. The Kuzri goes about this also. The Kitzer, and the Chazal says this. That's a crazy thing to say. For a Yid, that's a crazy thing to say.
He's quoting somebody, no?
Yeah, he's quoting a guy, but he agrees with it.
They know the Jews. How can it be?
No, no, that's what he's saying. If you're a philosopher, not everyone's a philosopher. Only a philosopher. To get to the truth. Maybe there was one guy, Aristotle. That was a long time ago, and there was one of them. He says a lot of other things, but this is a very radical thing in the sense that he's saying that you would need to have this kind of knowledge. Like I said, there's two ways to get to it, but you need to have that. Otherwise, you're over zilusa. That's what he says, because you don't have a concept of something that's not the true one. So you must be worshiping something else. Because nobody worships something like I know the Moavid Mashani there. You can't worship something you don't know, and if you don't know, you don't know. I can tell you this Hashem Shkoyach. The Vayz Chashus Chred. So you're not worshiping God. You're worshiping something else. So everyone, besides for two people in the generation, Medar is just like in the many generations are goyim. It's a crazy thing to say. I don't think he really believes it. That's a mitzvah, but the Chassidim take this seriously. And they say, what is the Pushtidin going to do? How they're going to be over the Hashem? So, if you're like I was saying, you say that everyone be'etzem understands, it just needs to be explained to him. I don't know if the Chazal is being asked of this, maybe. But the Chassidim have another solution. It's more like an experiential solution. They say, you could go to a Rebbe who you believe, who knows if the Rebbe does understand, but that does have this. He's Novi Adar B'Tiva mostly. And somehow you could see al datoich, it's a connection. I don't know. You could somehow be connected to him, and through him he's going to be Mali Tfilis. There's Chavis is saying the Mali Tfilis thing. The Chassidim just added this thing that one person can be Moitzi another person. It actually says, I think somewhere I found a source for it, and someone says something like this, and earlier the Shainim even. But like the Rebbe is Moitzi you b'mitzvah Yediyas Hashem. That's the big chiddush of Chassidus.
Moitzi?
Yeah. Like Shemei Ka'ina. If you could do it yourself, it's one thing, but you can't. I mean, if you could do it yourself, you're mechiyuf. But if you're not, most people can't, or not for their medraga, that's needed. So the Rebbe is might see everyone, but mitzvah Yediyas Hashem. And they all say, who do you believe in? The guy that, like Alikodem Ma'aranani, the guy that he believes in. That makes sense. It's a mahalach.
Are you saying that
Why are you laughing at me? There's thousands of people. Nowadays there's no tzaddikim that know it either, maybe, or maybe there's only one that nobody knows who he is. But that's mahalach.
Are you saying crazy. That you would argue to that maybe you hold past people could understand it, and they're just saying? No,
I'm saying that there's two. I'm just saying that this going back to these two ways. There's the one way. There's like derech ha-navi, the Chosov is called derech ha-navi, which is that the only person that is fasts enough or whatever could understand. By the way, the philosopher also has to fast, so it doesn't help you from the fasting problem. But and then. And according to that paradigm, if you think like that, then how is a normal person going to understand? So maybe normal people take ayahuasca, but he says it's not good, because that works for everyone. That's a certain thing that I don't know if it works for everyone. Or they're going to go to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe is going to daven beslavas, and they'll see it, and somehow it's going to connect them. Exactly how. That's another discussion. There's old shit. This kind of idea exists all over. It's a mahalach. It's a reasonable mahalach. But this is the mahalach of Yuchid. Like, is the mahalach that is only Yuchid that knows? Because it's a be'etzem, an internal thing, be'etzem, something that's not communicable, like we said. It's not sechel, which is the definition of that it's communicated. And it's hard to describe what the way to get to it even is. Like, who knows how to become that and so on. So everyone has to be samech on the Rebbe somehow. Maybe you could say all Din are samech on Moshe Rabbeinu. It's not enough to have the why you have to have a Rebbe b'dor hazeh. It's not a shala. But the other way, the Seichel way, would say something like this. Well, also it would have to. Well, most people were going to rely on the Rebbe. That's true, but in a different way. In other words, this Rebbe. I think, by the way, the Baal Tanya has this relation with this Chassid. Not like it's not that's internal to Chassidus questions. The Tanya does want to teach everyone to be a Rebbe. That's the whole machlokes that he has with other Rebbes. He doesn't really hold of this way. Tanya said on the Reb Chaim Amdure that he has 500 Chassidim that koch sich with davening, and thus he said the Chassidim kochen sich nicht, Reb Chaim kocht in sei. It's the Rebbe doing in them that's doing it. It's not them. And he said, no, I want to have Chassidim that are going to know themselves. He does have this theory of the Rebbe. I don't know how. It's a theory. Maybe that everyone is masking after Mekavach. I mean, most people, unless you're Chad Bedura that can figure everything out yourself. That the Shal is, if after that. So I don't know. But this is a very different relationship between the Rebbe and the Chassidim. Most people. Oh yeah, Sean, this is the sheet. Most people think that the Rebbe's way is nicer. I'm not masking. Most people think that the Melech or whoever who tells the Chassidim, look, you're okay how you are. I don't have any hopes for you, basically, right? You're going to stay normal mention, but about them, you give me a kvittel, and somehow, my hand on chochem nechosov, it's the good pshat in the Gemara, and I'll be mispal for you, and I'll be moitzi you with mitzvahs dis Hashem, kids. And Havas Hashem, Yiras Hashem, and all these things. That's one thing, and he doesn't really demand much from them. A bissel, go to the mikveh and whatever, certain things, but mostly doesn't really expect much from them because doesn't believe in them too much. And people say, oh, he's a good Rebbe, he likes you, makes him feel good, I'm going to go to him. Then the Chdisharim went to such a Rebbe and then he said, I don't need such a Rebbe. Remember the Maaseh? Chdisharim.
Ever pay for just for stories.
Yeah, and explanations. The Chdisharim famously went to Koznitz Maggid's son.
Too big of
The Chdisharim went to the Koznitz Maggid's son and he used to be Koznitz Chassid. And he said he doesn't want, and he liked him very much, of course, and he stopped going. He went to Pshischa, right? And he said he doesn't want a Rebbe that makes him feel good. He wants a Rebbe that hacks some shticker from him. Doesn't want. But that's a very deep machlokes here. What kind of Rebbe you have to be? And it's very hard. It's also a bigger mitzvah. I mean, the pashtas have to you're allowed to roid of people. Not so simple. No, I'm serious. It's a job, it's a mitzvah, it's a mitzvah to make people feel good. The Rebbe can make it feel tzidkes. It's himself a tzidkes, make them feel good. But Baal Tanya has a different shit, and he says, I don't want to make you feel good because I believe in you more. I believe that be'etzem you could understand everything that I understand. How am I understand everything you understand? Look, you'll come to the Shi for 7 years straight, maybe. It's a lot of work, right? And I don't even know if everyone could get to that, but at least be'etzem, he believes in the possibility. And that really means that you already have it in some sense, right? Because otherwise it wouldn't work. So you already have the basic ideas that what I'm going to based on, that it's going to be based on. And then so he has this like more Litvish relationship with his Talmidim, but in a certain sense he believes in them much. He's much nicer to them, and that's why he's mad at them. That's why he wants them to know everything about themselves. That's also why. Yeah, but then what is with the people that don't understand? So they but it's different. The Rambam doesn't say, for example, the Rambam doesn't say you should believe me in the Rambam. He's not the person doesn't become interesting because it's just that this is also a very interesting thing. I don't know why it turns out to be like this, but it turns out to be like this. That I don't know why. It doesn't stem. But in the reality, the people that are with the Seichel way end up having less ego. Again, this is opposite than what everyone said for some reason, and they understand why. But because if you say, why do you think there's a God? My Rebbe told me. So how does the Rebbe know? He knows. He learned whatever. He knows. Why do you know? I don't have time to think enough. I don't understand these things. I believe him. So when you say the Rebbe learned enough and he understands, right? So you being Samech on the Rebbe's understanding. In other words, on God, on the thing itself, right? You're not being Samech on the Rebbe. Maybe a little bit on his midas. Sometimes I think about his midas because you have to believe that he's not lying to you or something like that. But it's not the Rebbe. We don't need the Rebbe to bring down. In other words, we don't need like the Rebbe to bring down the truth from heaven. Maybe in some sense, because he discovered it, but he's not the Heftza, he's not the Gavra, he's not the, I don't know. He's not the thing. He's not a real link in the chain. He's a transparent link in the chain, if anything, or something like that. For some reason, the people that are with the Rebbe's experience, with the Rebbe's thing, they tend to make the Rebbe into think it's wrong, because the Rebbe is even less of a thing in that, maybe. I don't know, but that's what happens. I don't know why, but in reality, there's more of a desura in this way than the other way. I don't know why. It shouldn't maybe be like this, but that's the fact.
But it happens to be that they're more, definitely much more Chassidim than the Litvish. And because
they have achnot to their Rebbe, but that's a desura. The Litvish have more achnot to God. To the Torah. I don't know if they have achnot to God, but they have achnot to the Torah. I don't see, but this thing, if Seichel itself is Gaiva, that's I'm the chilik with. Because Seichel means that I only care about the truth and don't care about anything else. So I don't care about myself. Most people that have Seichel don't have Seichel, they have Midas HaNetzach. It's a different midah. It's a whole different thing.
It's much more risky to go into Gaiva. Of course, if you stay in it,
I'm not sure.
You work in all directions, you get out.
Yeah, that's true.
Why not?
I don't know, because like you say, you see, the people that have, there's no such thing as acquiring, but the people that have maybe for the Chassidim it's better. I don't know.
What?
The people that have the achnot to the Rebbe, or the Rebbe has achnot to God.
They're much more pshuto, so therefore they're much more achnotic. People that got it, it's much more I got it.
No,
I don't see any correlation either.
No, you do. Most people don't have men in the Rebbe. The ones that do, only like the Breslava.
In general, more
no, that's not. But I don't think that has to do, maybe because they don't understand Seichel. That's the thing. But I'm saying that I'm saying a svura, not there's still the people that. But it's like you were saying. Maybe it's more hard to figure. Maybe it's more hard to figure out which is true and which is false. In other words, maybe. But I don't know if this why it would be like this. I can make up Torah's Lakshan. The fact is like this. The fact is that the Seichel people don't go around saying we believe in the Rambam is God, that the Rambam brought us. They don't say that. The Rambam told us the truth, but we believe in the truth. Now, do they know the truth? They have a stickle gava that we know the truth. You don't understand the Rambam either. Besides that, that's a gava. I understand, but it's not of a desura. The Chassidim, they have the desura. They say the Rebbe is the God, or he's the Memutzah. It's true that he's the Memutzah. It's a reality. But you have to, but you're not allowed to make him a thing. That's the whole thing of not worshiping the Memutzah.
Wouldn't the Rambam say like the people?
I don't get any of this. No.
They're like, oh, what do you mean? People think Hashem is a body. It's like, I'll write it down.
No.
Slip it into the center somehow.
No.
Maybe we'll stop believing Hashem is a body and it worked. No, I'm saying like because he believes.
No, but that's what the Rambam thought. I don't know if that's true though. Because, but in other words, I don't know if it's true. No, people. Because maybe they never believed that God has a body. Maybe the Rambam was wrong when he said that everyone believes that. Maybe they never really believed that.
I'm talking about his critics. His critics who said, "What are you going to do with those people?"
No, I talked to someone today about
I'm talking about those critics who said that.
There were critics. It's true. No, it's true that there were critics. It's very true. This thing is true. There were critics, not critics. There's the Rambam when he says this is arguing with someone that we discussed it that says that's impossible. And therefore let them believe whatever they want. The Rambam says, no, I'm not going to let them believe whatever they want, because I hold that I want them all to be philosophers, really. Now, it's a bislech. First we'll tell them about Kabbalah, and then they'll learn slowly who's going to get to the top level. But it's true that he has this. Yeah, it's true. But he's saying a different problem that they claim. The Chassidim claim that just thinking is already gaiva. But that's the wrong way of thinking. That's the modern way of thinking. And the alt way of thinking is the opposite.
Okay. You would say that's very insulting, right? That's
insulting. Who are you to think? Who are you to feel?
No, you think I'm a plant. Basically, you call me a plant. That's what it is.
Is it guy with the
I like film. I thought my whole life, but you only think you decipher everything through a certain lens. And if your lens is not correct, then you can think all you want, but you're going in circles.
But the whole idea is that be'etzem you have a better lens. This lens is only your mistake.
How do you access that better lens?
So one of the ways of accessing is with the eyes.
Thinking is taking the same spot.
No, why? No, that's what most people do think thinking is. But
how do you access? I don't know how to access.
Maybe you need a Rebbe for thinking. Maybe that's the thing. I'm asking. We need to find such a Rebbe.
They don't have that.
Yeah, you could be. There were people that managed to do this, right? Socrates managed to do that. That's the big chiddush. His whole thing was going around telling people. That's what he said in his hesped, in his levai, whatever. In his thing, my whole life was going around telling people they should care about their soul. That first you have to prove that there's such a thing. Man, it's true, and he managed to do it. I don't know if he managed to prove it to many people, but there's a way to do it, and it's based on the idea that really you already understand it. You're just confused. I try to do this all the time. I don't know if it works, but. I don't know why the people. It's not. He's masking that it's not. But it's not chachma to mask to the people that are masking with me. So he's masking that tzeichel is not gav, but there's no chachma to talk about people that are masking with me. There's no use. Yeah. No.
I have a different problem with it. I personally think that
that it goes in circles.
No, I think the Baal Tanya writes, which you told me to disagree with, that the seichel of Sham is controlled by emotions and by midas, and the nefesh shalek is.
So I'm talking about the seichel and the shalek that everyone has inside it. That's
but I think the average person doesn't know at all.
But you could show it to him. So, but you can show it to him.
They're always thinking through nefesh bahamis. They don't know where the.
But so why I'm asking without getting into all these words, without getting all those, I'm asking with this. Not only I'm asking this, but I taina. No, so I taina me. This mahalach tainas that this cycle of even the cycle of whatever. Let's say in this language, the cycle of nefesh bahamis is ochet cycle, and because he's cycle. Cycle means knowing the difference between true and false. That's what cycle. By the way, that's the definition of cycle is. I wanted to get to this at some point. Cycle means knowing the difference between true sheker and emes. That's the tash cycle. Otherwise, it's not cycle, man. That's the difference. Now, of course, it could be confused cycle. It could be a cycle that's, like you said, based on I define emes by what makes me feel good or by what makes me give me more time. Say that. And now but now I have who to talk to. Now I could show you that that's a mistake. Because that's not good. Even the Seichel Nefesh, the Tanya, by the way, says this also. I'm not because the midas of Nefesh Bahamas is nobody to talk to because he's just what he is. But Seichel of Nefesh Bahamas is doing for that, and that's why you have to know how to do it. That's why you need a Rebbe, a different kind of Rebbe, like a Shiva. But maybe a Taka Rebbe for different reasons. But he already. That's what I'm saying. If you talk to the Seichel of Nefesh Bahamas. But Tanya tries to do this, by the way, all the time.
No, but he's talking to the Nefesh Halakis.
No. The Tanya's whole thing, the Lubavitcher say that the whole difference in Chabad and the other Chassidim is that they want the Nefesh Bahamas also to understand. Of course. They said this, I don't know, remember the Lubavitcher statement. Yeah, of course. Because he thinks that's the whole difference, that's what Shavuos Levecha means. And I don't know if the Sefer Tanya says this, but it's in Chabad, in Boifan Klil they say this. Sefer Tanya is missing certain parts of the Shitta.
But the last part of the Shitta is not in Tanya.
Yeah. So, but this is one of the things that they say. It's not. I didn't forget. But of course there's such a seichel. But that's a mistake. But the thing, if you see, when you say seichel, I can tell you it's a mistake, which means that it's mufrach manei obey. Not that there's such a thing and now we have to burn it down. It's just a mistake.
It just becomes when you change the seichel nefesh bahamis.
There's no ra in seichel.
When you change the seichel nefesh bahamis,
maybe there's ra in something else. I don't know. There's no bad people because people are defined by having seichel. There's no bad people. They're just mistaken people. That's the whole thing. That was Socrates shit.
You changed within their own. That was a different shit.
I don't remember. Yeah, that's why I said that we could. That's why there's Geredes. You could talk to everyone.
There's no such thing as not using. Like Aristotle says, you're always philosophizing. You're philosophizing not to
right. You can say the word gaiva.
No, but okay, wait. Noch a problem. But that's also a trick. That's a trick. That.
I can't imagine you think not to be a gaiva.
In other words,
much more risky.
You have to.
Than being makabel. I think in the second
which is risky.
Is much more riskier to become a gaiva. I didn't say you can't. What you say will become a gaiva also. Of course,
all the more worth it.
I don't.
But I'm saying something else.
I could be at risky. I don't know if that's true. You see, it's a tzurich if it's in the Metzias, like in the Olam Hazeh.
I can do it. So nothing will be beyond my knowledge. She's already in the wrong spot. You understand?
No, because understanding means
what could be. Saying that's potentially.
That's a hakira. How do you know? So wait.
You're saying Shebek Rebbe Kiva.
I'm never.
It's not to be power to understand. It's only good.
No, one minute about Kiva. Right. No, but it's not a problem. But you know, wait, it's not a problem. No, but let me tell you.
No, it's not.
See if I should say something for him.
I know. It's the thing that I know.
No, it's a baya. I don't know. Look, I know a lot of people that have all kinds of mistakes. You know something? I know a lot of people with all kinds of mistakes. Me and all my friends will have different kinds of mistakes. And this is something the Chassidim like to say. You're never allowed to believe the Lishna of one group or another group. So it must be shaker. And Litzuk is al Gava Ladachop. The Chassidim are Balatav and Litzuk Gava. Okay, that's what everyone says to each other. Is
there any way is it possible to explain to someone through Sichli why a person should give up his life because Hashem?
Yeah, of
why
course.
A person should walk
the Like Katanya, of course.
It's possible?
Yeah, of course.
Why?
Okay, that says, okay, not for now.
The Seichel says you do exist.
It doesn't mean you don't exist. Your gift doesn't exist. Your neshama goes on existing. That's the whole idea. That's what this is not my Torah. This doesn't in the. Of course it's sechli. Of course, this is when you define sechel as the sechel of nefesh bahamis. That's what comes out. That's what Tanya means actually when he says this. If the sechel of the case, it makes total sense. Of the nefesh, whatever the case, it makes total sense. That's the only thing that makes sense. It makes sense to die forever because of tzad gezach doesn't make sense. Just the opposite.
Doesn't make sense. He wasn't exist.
Why does his soul continues to exist? He wasn't killing Yitzchok in his neshama. He was killing his body. Of course, that makes sense. This is the exact example. The Tanya actually talks about this. Whatever. I'm not getting into in a different place. And look at Torah. He's arguing about this. The kids say no. I'm not asking to that Tanya. In other words, the Tanya itself has to say, "I very wish to go Torah for this to make sense." The kids is no. But let's go back to something else. The Gava thing is something like this. So I know a lot of people. I was trying to say I know a lot of people. Not a lot, but mention and. I wonder. I don't know. It's people are very hard to move from one spot to another, and the spiritual people are the hardest because they know things and they have the whole mahalach that everyone that says something else is a klippah. It's also a problem. Now there's ways to. I don't think that's chosat takuna, and also that's because I think there's some truth in that also. I'm not saying it's. I'm not a litvak. I don't say hey. There's something to do with that also, but I don't know if this whole thing that no. In other words, what is there's like a machloikes, but at least ideally, everyone is mother, right? Davash right? In other words, if you go to a goy or and you want to convince him of the truth of something, most people at least used to think that the way to do it is to have an argument with him. And now some people think that it's not a good way, but that's definitely a way. That's because you don't want to change his mind, you want to change his body. That's auch a mitzvah. No, maybe the Ikke Yiddishkeit is the body. But in other words, no. I think that when you invite him to a debate, you're respecting him more than you invite him to the Shabbos meal. Because now you're talking to the mensch. Okay, I think you're wrong, but let's figure it out. If you say, I don't care what you think, I think I'm gonna give you enough kigel until you like it. Okay, so you're saying I'm a kigel asser. No, really you're saying a nefesh kiss, whatever. Ich verstehe. Maybe. Not saying it. No, there's the tedits for this, but I don't know. People are very stuck with and someone has a feeling. And they looked, I have a feeling, prove me that my feeling is wrong. It's much harder to disagree with him, right? That's one of my other things that you can have wrong feelings.
Then you say that a man is an animal, right?
I don't know. Again, maybe my feeling is hechad an animal. All these titles could be, but the kid said I don't see that it's so true that the spiritual people are more open. They just have a different. That's going back to the thing. So that's why it's it's like a derech haricha k'tzur. In other words, if you want to, and I'm asking now, people always say, "Oh, so it's so hard because a lot of people have had a lot of kashas and rayas and they didn't get anything." Where okay, no, a lot of people have fasted for 40 days and Aliyah never didn't come. Man, it's supposed to be hard. Not supposed to be easy.
I'm saying if there is anxiety, if there is some shnei afocha, then you're not getting it.
Man kann das gar nicht verstehen. You see, you gave up way too fast. You gave up way too fast. I can explain it the Shnei but Tachlis Apashtas. It's going to take a few months. But you'll understand, there won't be anything L'malam and Adas. Whatever. No, let's say. It can be explained, not so hard.
Where does that come from?
I don't know, from Chabad. Wherever. Ich weiß nicht. There's a machloik, it's a whole shmit, not the point. We can talk about this forever. The point is that I believe that most of the things that people say you can't understand and that stops understanding it's just because they didn't think long enough. If you think long enough, and sometimes I get upset that some sifun will say, this is it's not possible to understand. Yeah, for you, because you didn't think about it. I'm not saying it's not true, you see, I think it's true. You have a good intuition, then you have a nevuah, it came to you and it's true, masking. But now, you don't have time to figure it out, so you say, it's a sod. not a thought. Come, sit down. Let's figure out all. It's very hard. And this is a much harder work because what's the big thing that you like saying? You have to throw away all your concepts. You have to throw away like the ways that you think. And for some, interestingly, whatever the people here know maybe like the people that are like with the straight with the direct path supposedly, they don't throw away any of their ways of thinking. They're all ultra modern people that think exactly like Pizza Hut thinks, and they saw this. What I mean is, ask him, maybe he'll explain. And that's what I think, at least. And the Bashan, they all think exactly like all the Goyim think. Just they have one shtickle Torah that you feel pizza and I feel God. Sure. But both are masking and all the Yisaitis. So, therefore, that's what causes them, all the Torahs come out of this. But since if you don't think like that, you say, let's stop thinking Wichlal like the Goyim think, or whatever, like the modern people think, then a lot of different things start making sense. Then you have to, and then not only that, then you have real Kedusha. Because then you could have, not only like your Nefesh Lekis will be holy, also your Nefesh Bahamas. That was the whole thing of Chabad, like I told you. And I think that's doable. It's just Derech Harucha K'tzara, like it says in the beginning of time. It's Derech Harucha K'tzara. Why is Derech Harucha K'tzara? Derech K'tzara means there's a truth. Let's just jump to it and shine. And Derech Harucha, but then it's always far from you. It's always Harucha. Because this was another sheet also. It's always something that you don't simply understand. It's always something that you like. But if you actually figure out all the basic things, and it's going to take you very hard, then you could have the push shot, and then it could be true also. That's the whole mahalach.
I think there's a nefesh shabam is a it's a sichli, it's a logical, it's rational. It starts there and it ends there. The nefesh like sichli goes into a deeper place. Over there is not a sichli. It means a sichli brings it inside, but the place where it is not sichli.
None of the cycles, but none of that. But again, you're using concepts, right? These are things this is psychology. In other words, there's such a cycle. This is all questions of psychology of what kind of thing is a human being, right? Now, I'm not sure that a human being is like you're describing. That's a certain description. By the way, most goyim agree with this description of the human being. That's why I don't like it. No, it's not goyim. Most people nowadays, they say, it's very rational, and rational means a certain thing. There's a certain thing called rationality. You can go to the Center for Applied Rationality. They'll teach it to you. You know the center?
No, but I know what kind of thing you're saying.
The kids said, basically, I teach you to be an atheist, right? Because that's rational.
What rational is saying? You're saying that there's
and that's what you're saying. And there's but then there's Nefesh Lekis who's not. By the way, no seichel is about your seichel, because the whole idea of seichel is to go out of itself. That's what seichel is for.
How can seichel go out of itself?
The Gitza, we're our machloike. That's what I'm saying. The kid is not about what the seichel is for. That's why we're trying to learn this. The kid is about what the seichel is. And if you have a different psychology, or a different understanding of what seichel, maybe there's a lot of kinds of seichel. I'm not saying that what you're saying is not a kind of seichel. But if you have a different understanding of how the whole world works, how the whole person, by the way, from the beginning, from eating food and digesting it, and which is what we're up to supposedly, then all these things will stop being l'mal min hadas.
We'll stop being l'mal min hadas?
Yeah. Not they're going to become rationalized in the lower rationality way. We could re-engineer the whole cycle thing to mean something different, and that's why if you think that way, then it won't be weird that I say bichlal. That's why in the other direction, if you understand cycle this way, it makes a lot of sense that going to the mikveh is a way of knowing. It just has a problem that doesn't have a critical part. You don't know which mikveh is the correct one. There's different problems, but it's not a crazy thing. Nowadays, people think it's a crazy thing, so you have to believe in the whole things that are a whole different mereches that's different than the one that we usually live in. But if you think the Aristotle's way, then, or whatever, even Plato's way would be even better, but we'll get to that after that. Then, I have a different class in Kurdish, but we didn't understand anything yet. Then, then the bi'achdas from the Nefesh Lekis and Nefesh Bahamas, they'll have the same cycle. And then your guf will be masking not to eat too much. Not your guf. The guf doesn't do anything, but the cycle of the guf, whatever. That's the whole mahalach, and I think that this is a very hard thing to do, and it's also not fun. Like there's no stories to write with a lot of they call it Badicheva stories, like with jumping up and down. All these dramatic things don't happen. Very not dramatic, and very boring, and very hard work. I don't know if it's for most people. Oh, I said that it's for everyone. Okay, it's for everyone. Yeah, but it's
potential actual could still be.
It's very Litvish in the sense of like just step by step, but these steps are very, very small, and at some point everything will make sense. That's my whole dream. Maybe it doesn't make. I don't know if it's already happened. But
so even the Rambam says that there's things that can't be mastered. It doesn't mean you should.
Of course, there are things that you can. Of course, no, that's another whole thing. Of course, there are things that you can't. In other words, what is okay?
I'm saying to him, why is
not talking about things that you can't be mastered. There's a lot of other things. I'm just saying that there's a way. All my whole sheet today, and it's gonna finish because it's already 10:30. Was that there's a way to access the truth that's beyond you, and make it not beyond you in some basic way. It's gonna still be beyond you. It's not gonna be not about you knowing. That's of course. It's about the knowledge existing, or that connection, however you want to call it. And there's a way of doing it which is called seichel, or I don't know how you want to call it. Dialectic would be the correct word. But there's a different word. Dialectic, in other words, arguing with each other.
The dialectic is reasoning from.
No. I know.
Right?
I know. I'm not talking about that. What Socrates called. There's two dialectic. Bekitze. That's why every word that I say. No, Hegel's dialectic comes from Plato. Okay, Bekitze. Every word that I say, people have different ideas about, and that becomes very complicated. But Bekitze, contradiction. One of he had a different word, not like contradiction. In other words, saying the false thing and then figuring out why it's false. Okay, that's the big chiddush. And that's a way. It's dialectic because it's starting from sheker. It's not starting from the thing from truth. Starting from false things, but then making the false things into truth somehow. And the way to do that is with arguing with people, or with yourself. But people are even better. And that's a way it's very. It goes down like it said. Like it goes down very because seichel doesn't need to go to the mikveh. It's very useful because otherwise you need to have a mikveh next to you. And this way you don't need. No, I'm serious.
How you know you don't get more seichel when you go to mikveh?
Of course you do, but you have to have seichel to tell you that, right? But if you don't, then you have to have something that's good for people that don't go to the mikveh, and that's one thing. And the second ma'ale is that it makes you allows you to talk with people. It's psach pichalilim. It's not mech. It's like a different level of mechin, you know. Like Pesach, you talked about it. We have to have an open mouth, which means we have to be able to express ourselves in the language that other people understand. It's not so simple because I'm saying that you express yourself after you explain the guy the whole language. So I don't know, but at least it's talkable, and you could have a chabura, you could have like a collective revelation. Don't have to be only semach on the Rebbe. And also, what did we say in the end? Yeah, I think it could be less. It's less gava, really. I don't know. The practical questions of gava are a different question. And also it makes things make sense. It's derech haricha k'tzura in the sense that in the end, you don't have to close your eyes by Krishma. Chap?
What do you mean?
I once had a suga that said that. One day Pesach, I got a gilui that said that when Mashiach comes, they're going to say Krishma with the eyes open. And I had a pusik that says this. I forgot the pusik. Because it says a pusik. Because in Krishma we say Shema Yisrael. Right? So if you want to hear, then you don't use your eyes and you have to close your eyes. But there's a different pasuk that says L'ayne Kol Yisrael. That's the end of the Torah. So then, closing their eyes.
Wasn't when Shema Yisrael was written Torah. You don't have to close your eyes.
These look correct kashas because it's not halacha. It's only a minute. What do you want? I'm saying a drash. It's a drash, but it's a L'ayne Kol Yisrael, and then you can have say Krishna with open eyes. But there's a madraga, and it says in Tekina and the Idra about this that there's open eyes and closed eyes. But Kitze, the idea is that
open eyes is a higher level than closed eyes.
Yeah, of course.
So interesting.
Yeah, because closed eyes means that over here you don't see it because it's stimmt nicht. So you have to like have a whole. You have to fly into the Olam Masliyanim, and then you'll understand it. But if you think that the same thing that moves, and not b'derech amina, because that's a certain closed eyes. If you see that the same thing that moves your foot when you move it is the thing that moves the stars, and the same thing that means God, right? Remember the unmoved mover or whatever. Then you could do it with open eyes. So that's why only listen lover they're gonna say Krishna with open eyes. That's by having this is Lubavitch. That's by having it make sense.
No, so interesting.
Shine. That's my drusha.
So interesting.